Well, in our first story, after nearly 8 years, the Akufo-Addo administration says it has finally reached an agreement with the independent power producers in rescheduling their debts. The announcement, meanwhile, is coming with the insistence on enforcing a 15% value-added tax on energy consumption. Mauna Ebeta has the details.
The last 2 weeks have caused concern for the many Ghanaians who experience continuous bouts of unexplained blackouts. The country suffered a 500 megawatt shortfall in demand after the West African gas pipeline cut gas supply, plunging many parts of the country into hours of darkness. With many alluding to financial constraints within the sector, including experts, government has been fighting the claims. With a growing debt stock currently at some $1.7 billion as at August of 2023, largely attributed to power purchase agreements, the state says progress has been made in renegotiating the deals.
We have had some discussions on restructuring the outstanding obligation. 1.7. That would lead to some amendment of some of the PAs. And of course, that would amount to a renegotiation of some terms in the PPAs that we've executed. And so, like I said, in the coming weeks, when all is concluded, some upfront payments will have to be made to them as part of the negotiation, and scheduled repayments over some because, like I said, they are confidential and it's not one size fits all. We negotiated individually with all the IPPs, and we have reached some understanding with almost all of them.
The lights have not stayed on completely in the face of government assurances. While spokesperson for the current administration labeled them localized, the new 15% value-added tax on electricity consumption appears far from localized. The new tax will affect residential customers above lifeline consumers, that is, persons who use electricity above 50 kilowatts per hour. For the government, the new tax is important.
You look at the scope of the tax and what it is that it's intended to do. It's intended to raise revenue, to meet some obligations of the government in that sector. We all, when we're paying taxes, we feel it. I pay the same component of taxes as you do. But my assurance is that let's roll it out and see its impact. And government obviously can then take a decision whether it is something that we have to continue, or that if it's subject to some review, as has been done in some instances in the past, I'm sure the Ministry of Finance will consider it.
There is still no clear timeline as to when implementation for the 15% VAT will begin. What is a certainty? Not many are looking forward to paying.
Well, former President John Dramani Mahama is pleading with labor unions to be measured in their demands of the next NDC administration, warning of a depleted coffers to be bequeathed to him by the MPP administration. Now, various professional bodies have been making several demands of the NDC leader in the areas of improved conditions of service and salary upgrades. But speaking in Hohoi, John Dramani Mahama says Ghanaians should brace themselves for tougher times.
And I'll plead with the teachers' unions, NAT and NAGRAT and UTAG and TEWU and all of them. And all of you are clamoring for allowances, increase in your allowances and so on and so forth. Let me caution you that in 2025, inshallah, after we take over, we will show you the books and the finances of this country. And you realize the harm that the MPP administration has done to Ghana's economy. This country is broke. And so we would beg you that when we come into office, give us a bit of a honeymoon. Let's put things in place so that we can bring the economy back on its feet. And when we have done that, we can accede to your demands again. And that's why I'm being very measured in the promises that I make, because we all know the crisis in which this country has been plunged.
Still in politics, the leadership of the National Democratic Congress, NDC, has condemned the attack on its Northern Regional Treasurer, Hajia Shamima Yakubu. Now, Hajia Shamima Yakubu was assaulted by a regional party officer of the NDC during a stakeholder meeting to discuss the campaign strategy in Tamale over the weekend.
The meeting, which took place over the weekend, turned chaotic, and Hajia Yakubu suffered injuries to her face, resulting in her treatment at the hospital. In a statement dated January 15, 2024, signed by the General Secretary of the NDC, Fiavi Kwete, the NDC took a very serious view of the conduct of the party officer responsible for the assault and said that at the next meeting of its functional executive committee, measures will be taken to address the matter thoroughly, to leave no doubt in everyone's mind that the party does not approve of unlawful acts of assault and battery. The NDC wants to place on record its determination to ensure that all its members adhere strictly to the long-cherished practices that have made the internal politics enviable attraction of teeming millions of the people of Ghana, and from which it draws the confidence of being the next government in waiting.
On to some more stories now. And brother of the late President John Atta Mills, Samuel Mills, has chastised those seeking the autopsy report of former President John Evans Atta Mills. Now, the MP for Komenda Edina Eguafu Ibrahim at constituency, Samuel Atta Mills, is holding former Deputy General Secretary of the NDC, Koku Anidohu, responsible for the mischief. He emphasized that the laws of Ghana do not permit burials without an autopsy report. Hence, there was no way the burial of the deceased head of state would take place without such an important requirement.
Those people who supposedly went to the president are imposters. They are not members of the Atta Mills family, including Koku Anidohu, the lunatic who led them over there. He knows better. Koku knows better that those are not my family members. They just went to, it was a fraudulent thing on the president. If one of them claims he's a family head, and if he was a family head, and they were going to have an autopsy, wouldn't he have known about it? Now, if he claims he's a family head, and I'm his subject, why didn't he summon me to a family meeting to ask me about the autopsy report instead of going to the president? These are just imposters who wanted their 15 minutes of fame. But as a country, let's get serious here. Mental disease is real.
Now on to some education stories, and it takes more than just good grades for one to begin a university education. And in the last 3 years, over 60% of all senior high school graduates could not transition to tertiary institutions. While this primarily has attributed to financial challenges, and education stakeholders say this is a drawback to national target of 40% annual enrollment by 2030. Grace Hamajiman has the rest of the story.
Access to tertiary education is considered a major step in one's preparedness for the job market. But there are worries the rate of progress from the secondary to tertiary level is not going as planned. Data from the education think tank Africa Education Watch indicates that out of the 340,000 candidates who wrote WASI in 2019, only 142,000, representing 42%, entered tertiary education in 2020. That number was up just slightly in 2020, with only 163,000 of 375,000 candidates, representing 43%, progressing to the tertiary level. There was a decline in 2021, with only 164,000, that is 36%, out of 446,000 candidates making the step up.
Even if we are able to enroll 40% in the university, the meaning is that you still have 250,000 still not being able to progress beyond secondary level, likely to join the unemployment wagon.
Richmond Chichia fears he will end up in the wrong section of the statistics if he doesn't get help. He has made the journey to the media general offices to seek help in sorting out the finances after he gained admission to the University of Ghana.
For the level 100, both first semester and second semester is 2,219 cedis. So anyone watching me can support any amount of any donations to help me pursue my dreams.
On the GIJ Unima campus, Ernest Donko is facing the same challenge. Distressed and confused, he has no hope of how he will pay his admission bills and accept the opportunity to begin studying.
I'm unable to raise the amount of money needed to pay my fees to pursue the course I am willing to do. So I am pleading the general public to come to my aid to help me pay my fees. I am required to pay an amount of 3,650 Ghana cedis.
Ernest says he has applied for one of the government's interventions, but is doubtful of how it will help his predicament.
My background, they are cocoa farmers, but then it seems we, the farmers, we don't get access to the scholarship. It is only given to those who live in the city.
Social media provides evidence of how bad the problem has become, with constant appeals for help for students unable to bear the cost of higher education. Wendy Boatma, a social media influencer, paints a picture of how dire the situation is.
Messages. When I checked yesterday, it was about 32. And then so far, we've been able to pay for 12 of them. So to me, it shouldn't be so difficult for a brilliant student to access a scholarship scheme as a Ghanaian.
In the government's bid to reduce the pressure on parents and students, it introduced some funding interventions, but experts say they are not responsive.
To what extent is the student loan reflecting or responsive to the financial needs of needy students? It costs averagely 15,000 cedis to finance one's tertiary education in a year. The average student loan is 2,000 cedis. So 2,000 cedis as a percentage of 15,000 cedis for humanities, obviously, it's not what to prevent one from dropping out. Not to talk about the fact that this 2,000 arrives at the end of the academic year.
He thinks tertiary institutions need to get innovative in order to tackle the problem. Ghana has a target of enrolling about 40% of its senior high school graduates into tertiary institutions by 2030. Currently, the country is doing between 19 and 20%. With government commitment to the Sustainable Development Goals and other targets, it will take a lot more of concerted efforts to achieve this target. Grace Hamuajiman, TV3 News, Accra.
Now, it's one of the most populated slum communities in the Greater Accra region. For just 60 cedis a month, one can rent a wooden structure to serve as a home in no man's land at Kokompe near New Town in Bon. Now, in the midst of underdevelopment in the slum are stories of broken dreams, unemployment, and great expectations for a better life in Ghana, where everyone will have a fair share of the national cake. A report by Portia Gabo.
When the sun rises on no man's land, it's a race of survival for residents. Here, saints and sinners, the employed and unemployed, outcast live in wooden structures. Majority of them cannot afford to pay rent in big cities. 47-year-old Felix lost his job 3 years ago. Unemployed and unable to pay for rent, he resettled in no man's land.
Because of money, see my bed where I'm sleeping. I need the help. Who can help me to give me a job? This is my bathroom. I enter here bath. Since this towel I receive them for top, but old. This is my sponge, old. Even my puff student self, I use the sachet because of money.
His latest job is to work out lotto numbers for clients while clinging on to his passport with hopes of traveling outside Ghana.
To be a man is not easy. This passport, I have a connection for Canada. But Ghana is hardly, so anywhere you know the job happened, as a man, money will never feel in bullet. You have to fire.
Sister Amma also lives in this wooden structure in no man's land.
Here is my kitchen, and here is my bath. So I'm bathing here. I don't have anybody to help me.
For Judith, wrong decisions she took in life compelled her to settle in the slum community. An attempt to open a small food joint was not successful.
I'm a single mother. Me and someone give birth, the person was Jaya Kolana Mommy. So that's why I don't have any place to go. That's why I get some money where I can rent kiosks for here to manage myself.
In no man's land, everyone is equal.
I came to manage myself with this shoemaking and these things. That is where I to survive myself as well. Yeah, rent is cheap and to me, right?
It's a whole community comprising a mosque, church and mini stalls. Many have left their villages in search of greener pastures.
Majority of them, problem back when you're in so.
Majority of residents here do not have potable waters. They also lack toilet facilities. They need electricity. As an assembly member for this area, I'll do my best to liaise with the MCE as well as the Member of Parliament to provide these amenities for them. Aside 2 polytanks that serve as their source of water, others get water for their household chores from this drain from a factory nearby. Residents know they have limited time here. The landowner may evict them anytime. That will be disastrous, they say. But till that time comes, residents revel in living in wooden structures and vow to enjoy it while it lasts.
They do not have land to build their houses on, so they've settled here at a place called No Man's Land, where they've built wooden structures. It takes just 60 to 80 Ghana cedis to rent a wooden kiosk here. Even as the political season heats up, people living here in No Man's Land want political parties, even as they begin to think about their manifestos, to make housing for the homeless a priority and bring about a boom in employment for persons who are unemployed. From No Man's Land, Portia Gabo, TV3 News, Accra.
Interesting story by Portia Gabo there. But let's do some more stories. And the spokesperson of aggrieved Menzgold customers, Fred Forsing, has cautioned witnesses in the ongoing trial of Nana Appiah-Mensah, also known as Nam1, to ward off any attempts to influence them. Lord Iduasari reports.
When the case was called, Director of Public Prosecutions, Yvonne Atakra Obobisa, told the court that the designated prosecution witness for the day, Lady Darlene Tufor, had informed the prosecution that she was unwell and hence would not be able to make it. She thus introduced another witness, Edward Otulabi, to testify. Speaking after the state's second witness, Edward Otulabi, was discharged by the Accra High Court following his witness testimony, the spokesperson of the aggrieved Menzgold customers alleged that efforts have been made to approach and induce customers.
We do not want anybody to take this as a mere formality and as business as usual. Let us hold on to our integrity. Let us believe the process that we are going through. Because if we were to be paid, if these people were faithful enough to pay us, they would have done the payment long ago. Not when this matter, even when the case was at the circuit court for over 4 years. There were no attempt to even approach any customer. So how come now that the matter is before the High Court that we are hearing these things and we are seeing this? So I still want to maintain that we should hold on to our integrity.
He charged the customers not to betray the trust that the people of Ghana and the generality of the customers have placed in them. The case has been adjourned to Wednesday, January 17. Lord Iduasari, TV3 News, Accra.
And that's our wrap up the 6 a.m. news right here on TV3. My name is Judith Brown. We'll go for a short break. We'll be back with the rest of the day. Good morning.